Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Kakashi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
It had been a couple of days and so far nothing much was going on, which to Kakashi was just fine. He kept his genins busy with training and giving them pointers now and then on how to look for signs that people had been in the area. He also figured that he had what he needed from the balloon training, so he stopped the training for them. Sakura ended up being able to make a small hole, but after all that effort left her too weak. He had expected as much from her. At this point she could control her chakra the best, but she didn't have what it took to take the training any farther, at least not without years of extra training to get her chakra up. Sasuke and Naruto had done well with it, only just managed to make holes in them. Of course it took them longer than Sakura, but they could do it a few times before they got tired. It was good since that meant both boys had the talent to take it up further, although he wasn't sure about teaching them the full Rasengan. Naruto he knew should have to learn it, after all his was his legacy, and given that Sasuke could have the Sharingan when it was awakened, and with that he could learn his own unique move. But they still had a long way to go. He remembered how long it took himself to be able to break the balloon into pieces and not just make a small hole. It wasn't easy, but this would help them later on when he started with a few other training techniques. This was the first step for both moves, and he had to admit he was glad at their progress, so after that he had them keep on learning on the scrolls he had. This turned out to be very interesting. Sakura had started to practice her genjutsu on the boys. Apparently years with Naruto had rubbed off on her a bit, and she had a slight side for being a prankster. He wasn't sure what they saw, but apparently the boys were staying away from the girl for the time being. Naruto seemed to be having some trouble with the elemental thing, but then Kakashi was just gave him the scrolls, and although he took to the shadow clone jutsu using elemental moves took longer. Sasuke, although he told to hold off until they either found a good body of water or they got home, he didn't like it of course, but it was better than burning down the entire forested area and letting the bandits knowing where they were anyway. So by now they were moving along the border, and so far so good. They hadn't run into any trouble, and whenever Naruto got twitchy without any excitement, he would have Naruto fan out with shadow clones to scout the area for trouble or increased his training. Although that trick seemed to be losing its impact on him, and the novelty of it was wearing it off. Plus Sasuke kept asking about the Sharingan and why he had it and how he could access his own. All in all, Kakashi was getting a bit sick of things. What he hadn't known though was that their movements had been followed by the ninjas in the bandit group they were looking for. The woman Sparrow was a specialist in spying and infiltration. She had been quietly keeping her distance from them and sending out small messages to her leader on the movements. She was waiting for word from Scar on what to do. Hopefully they would soon, because she was getting sick and tired of this. She was waiting in the trees before she felt a familiar presence and looked behind her shoulder. There was Bear there sitting on a branch behind her. "What is the word?" she asked him. "He says that we attack them when they reach the open area. The bandits will take care of the genin while we take care of the jonin," Bear told her. She nodded with a smile. She was glad to get things going. She couldn't wait for a decent fight. Being part of a band of bandits wasn't the life she wanted, but when her home let that creature join their ranks, she couldn't stand the place any longer. Although she thought joining another village would be preferable to this, but they needed to prove their worth, and sometimes a little money thrown the right way to grease the wheels could work as well. Which was why they even bothered to do this. They couldn't hire themselves out as ninjas as they were still being hunted anyway, so this was the only option. Sparrow removed her genjutsu and left with Bear to plan the attack on the ninja team. Meanwhile, back with Konoha ninjas, Naruto was getting bored. Nothing happened, and so far his first real mission was turning out to be a total waste of time. He hoped for some action. Sure, he got to practice some new jutsus, and he secretly was planning on continuing that training with the balloons that his dad showed him when they got back, but it was just so dull. How was he going to be Hokage if he couldn't test himself out for real? By now they were just walking, taking a break from jumping from tree to tree. Naruto looked to his right to see his dad reading his book as usual, then he looked to his left. Sakura was studying her scroll, most likely working on the genjutsu in it. So far she was the only one that was getting anywhere in her own jutsus, although he hated being put in them. They just unnerved him for some reason, and Sasuke seemed to particularly didn't seem comfortable by being placed in one for some reason. So they walked on in silence as he didn't want to bother Sakura, and Sasuke was usually the quiet one anyway, and his dad was reading, so he was left on his own just thinking. He was a bit disappointed in this for another reason. He wanted to brag about his big adventure to all his friends. He really wanted to tell Hinata as well. He had been looking forward to telling her all about this as well. He sighed, thinking how Kiba would never let him live this down when he found out about just walking in the foods all this time and nothing to show for it. Stupid Kiba, I just know he'll laugh his ass off at this. At least Shikamaru won't say anything, or Choji and Shino would most likely shrug as well, he thought, although I was hoping to impress Hinata a bit. After all, she's been my closet friend. Kind of wish she was here instead of Sasuke. At least she's nice to hang out with, plus she's the nicest person I know. I just wish why she blushes and faints all the time. Maybe I should ask her family if she's sick or something. Meanwhile, back in Konoha, Hinata sneezed while trying to get into her gentle fist-style stance in a training session with Kiba. Hey Hinata, you catching a cold? Kiba asked her as he froze a moment before attacking. And no, I don't think so, Hinata told him, getting ready. She wasn't, however, totally focused on her training. For the past few days she had been worried about Naruto. Ever since she heard he was on his first C-class mission, she was worried something bad would happen. She just had a bad feeling about this for some reason and wished she was there with him. He had spent so long protecting her that she wanted to do the same for him. Please be careful, Naruto-kun, she silently prayed to him. Back with Team 7, they were just reaching a clearing that Kakashi figured might be a good place for some training for the team while they were searching. He was, however, also thinking about how off this felt. They should have seen some kind of sign of a bandit camp, but no fire pits, large tracks, or smoke was seen, which was odd as bandits usually weren't this careless. Plus something else was suddenly nagging him. It was too quiet in the field they were entering. There were no bird noises and no other animal sounds, and that could only mean one of two things. There was a predator around the area, or they had just entered into a trap. He looked at his team and saw that they were too preoccupied to notice. He would have to work on that. Everyone, I want you on your guard, he said quietly to them. Huh, what's up, Pop? Naruto asked. What did I tell you about a ninja and his environment? Kakashi asked him. Naruto looked puzzled and then remembered one of the camping trips that he taught him all about ninjas and certain skills. He looked around the area and didn't see anything out of the ordinary, and then he tried to listen and it all seemed quiet, but then he noticed that it was way too quiet. Even a forest with nothing going on had the usual sounds in the background, and they weren't here. Oh crap, I can't believe I didn't notice this, he thought, and gave his dad a look. Both Hatakis gave a small nod. I wonder how many there will be. Oh well, I'll just shadow clone and take him on. In the forest, the bandits were already surrounding the group. The ninja leaders told them to take out the kids, although some of the men felt that fighting children was beneath even them, but then again the ninjas had done a good job of leading them, so any voices against this were quickly silenced by the majority. Now they only had to wait for the signal, and they were to rush out and swam them. They were to keep the kids away from the adult. A bird call was heard, but it was the same one that the female ninja used. At one, the men rushed out of the brushes and charged the kids. Everyone get into position, Naruto and Sasuke point, Sakura center with support. Kakashi told him as he turned to face the others coming at him. Alright, time for some action finally. Naruto shouted out as he made his favorite seal and started to make shadow clones. The clones charged into the group of bandits as they were surprised to suddenly find a horde of blonde-haired ninjas fighting them. Sasuke didn't want to be outdone, so he decided to charge in as well. He jumped into a group of bandits and with his family style starting to take down bandits. He used his kunai to block weapons and then using his feet and fists sent bandits flying back. Sakura saw them and she didn't want to be left out as she smirked as she started to form hand seals to try out her new genjutsu moves. Distortion. The bandits that ran at the girls suddenly felt the world move under their feet as they were getting dizzy and found it hard to keep their balance. Sakura grinned at the effects as they were similar to being dizzy that was sent into their heads. For a ninja of some skill it wouldn't take much to break it, but these weren't ninja. She ran forward and as they were trying to keep their footing she easily started to defeat them. Meanwhile Kakashi had to dodge a kunai that had been thrown at him and he was surprised to see the ninja weapon. They were only supposed to be bandits and not ninja, but that would explain why the bandits were able to hide their tracks so well. They had professional help. He saw three figures drop down to him. One was a man with scars on his face as he wore an older looking ninja gear that had seen lots of use but little repair time. The other was a very large man with an equally large club weapon, and finally what looked like a woman with long hair in robes and a large straw hat on her head. So they have missing ninjas helping them, Kakashi guessed by their lack of headbands and their appearance. This complicates things. The others seem to be focused on the bandits while the ninjas are after me. That's smart. The kids don't stand a chance against 3 trained ninjas even if they are renegades. Take him, Scar said as they all jumped to attack the Jonin. Naruto was having a good time. The bandits weren't expecting this team to be this good and they were making headway in beating him back. That is until he noticed that his dad was fighting against 3 people that didn't look or fight like bandits. Crap guys, look behind us. Sasuke looked and saw the ninjas and swore this wasn't in the mission briefing, but at any rate he needed stronger opponents to test himself, and with a vicious backhand to one of the last bandits in his area he saw that the bandits weren't much of a threat anymore. I'm going to help you two, keep it up. Sasuke ran up to one of the ninja and threw several shuriken at him. The man was only lucky enough to had turned in his fighting Kakashi to notice and managed to twist his body enough to dodge them, with only a couple giving him shallow cuts. Brat, Sparrow, take care of this one, Scar said to her. She nodded and ran to intercept the boy. He was fast but she was faster. Sasuke was struggling with the woman as her strikes came in swiftly with knife-like blows. Damn it, I need to be faster, Sasuke thought and grunted from a blow. He tried to use a flame jutsu on the woman but she was too fast as she just dodged them. Then she stopped and started to make hand seals but he couldn't see them. Her robe had long sleeves and so her hands were hidden from sight. Illusionary warrior's jutsu, she said, and suddenly there were copies of her all over the place. He dodged as a few kunai were thrown at him but he knew that they were illusions and only a few were real, so one that was coming from his sides and behind he ignored as he knew she was in front of him. But he felt the cuts as the kunai scrapped his skin. He was surprised at that. He quickly turned around wondering if she had gotten behind him. How did she? She shouldn't have been able to get behind me that fast, but those came at different angles too. He thought as he dodged even more of them. Then he realized his problem. He had been fighting this as though they were just clones. His spares with Naruto had been with shadow clones who were real bodies. Plus he was in a genjutsu as well. For all he knew, the pain he felt wasn't totally real. A few of the injuries could be real but he couldn't tell the real from the fake ones. I need to be faster or else I'm going to get killed, he thought. He was focusing on his chakra, trying to keep ahead, although what he didn't notice was that chakra was starting to build up behind his eyes. Suddenly the world shifted slightly for him. It was like he could see everything in a new light. It all looked the same, but there was almost like a ghost image on the female ninjas. He also found himself being able to dodge faster as well. What he couldn't tell was that on the outside his eyes had changed into Sharingan eyes. His left had 2 totems while his other only had 1, but they were giving him a much needed edge. He also could see through her illusion as well. He could see the fakes and he ran towards the real ninja. She was surprised when he suddenly was able to see through her illusion. She didn't understand how that was possible, but she was caught off guard by some genin that had seen through it. Then she saw his eyes and she understood. She had heard of those eyes and what it meant. She dropped her illusions and tried to fight him again, but it wasn't the same this time around. He was blocking her attacks this time, and as they fought she realized something else. He was starting to copy her movements exactly and use her own moves against her. You little brat, I'll kill you, she said and tried to use a kunai to stab him. Not today. He gripped her wrist and threw her over his head. He heard her land and grunt and turned to quickly prepare for her counter-attack. But she was just laying there motionless, and for a moment he thought that she was faking, but he didn't see any movements, not even slight breathing. He slowly moved towards her and turned her onto her back and was surprised to see that she had landed badly and onto her kunai. It was deep in her chest and her eyes were lifeless. It was just bad luck she had landed like that, but it was still strange. He had thought about killing his brother for years, but this was his first kill. Yes, she had tried to kill him, but it felt strange. He wasn't sure how to feel about this as he looked down at her. Meanwhile, Sakura was finishing up her own battles. Her new genjutsu was proving to be very handy thing for her, but she lost her focus on her surroundings and missed one of the bandits getting back up. He had only been stunned and saw the pink-haired girl. He got up and threw a punch at the back of her head. She hadn't seen it coming and her head exploded in pain as she staggered forward. Then she felt a hit to her kidneys and felt herself being thrown to the ground. There were stars in her vision and suddenly she felt a hand on her neck squeezing her throat. You little pink-haired bitch, I'm going to kill you for that, the man said as his hands gripped her neck. Sakura was starting to panic from the lack of air and the pain in her neck. She knew that if she didn't do anything, she was going to die. One of her hands went for her weapons pouch on her thigh and grabbed the first thing she could. She grabbed a kunai and stabbed the man in the side. He cried out in pain, but his hands stayed where they were. She just kept stabbing him. She felt the warmth on her hands but ignored it. Then when the world was going dark, she suddenly could breathe again. She gasped for breath and started to cough. She rolled to her side, and when she could steady herself, she looked around and froze. She could see the man there, ugly wounds on his side. There was a lot of blood too, and that's when she looked at the warmth on her skin. She had his blood all over her hand and forearm. She had never thought about killing someone, and she had just did it on instinct. She felt very sick at the moment and started to throw up her last meal on the ground. Kakashi had been fighting the large ninja, and he had to admit the man had some power. With that huge club of his, if he connected, then Kakashi knew he would be in having a bad day. Luckily he was faster than the large man to keep himself from getting hit by him, but it wasn't easy as the man was like a juggernaut. He just kept on coming. I'm going to enjoy this. You have any idea how much money is on your head, Kakashi? Bear asked him, swinging his large club in a downward arc. Ah, so you know of me, huh? Kakashi said before jumping aside from the blow that left the earth damaged in its blow. Well, sorry if I don't know who you are, but I don't have time to deal with this. He pulled up his headband to reveal his Sharingan eye as he dodged the man again. Kakashi jumped up high and started to make hand seals. As he finished, he blew out a ball of fire at the ninja. Bear quickly countered by creating an earth barrier that covered him in a dome came out of the ground. He maybe have been from the Cloud Village, which was good with lightning, but he had picked up on a few earth-style moves here and there over the years. That was pathetic, he muttered to himself, getting ready to move when he heard the sounds of birds chirping. At first he thought it was Sparrow, but there were too many bird noises and he knew she couldn't do more than one at a time. That pause was just enough for Kakashi to get ready for his one original jutsu. Chidori. Kakashi's voice was heard as the lightning blade came through the stone and sank into the large man's chest. He shouted out in surprise and pain, feeling his chest on fire from the attack. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy and he felt himself fall onto the ground. Kakashi looked down at the ninja with the hole in his chest and he could see the man had stopped breathing. With that out of the way, he had to make sure the others were okay. Naruto didn't know how it happened, but he was fighting some ninja with nasty scars on his face. After finishing up with the last of the bandits, he saw his dad getting double-teamed. Well, he wasn't going to stand for that. So he charged ahead to attack the man with the scars on him. When he got there, he started off with using his shadow clones to start things off with, as usual with him. He tried to keep ahead of the man, but the man was way too good and he was wishing he got those new Eustace down before this fight. When he got out of this, he would make plans to learn those two before he left the village again. He could have used his exploding clones, but he was too close to his dad for that. He was grabbed by the ninja and suddenly found himself thrown into the woods while his clones kept on fighting. He would have been okay too if he hadn't had the rotten luck of being thrown into a thorn bush. Nothing hurt more than all those little thorns at a fast speed cutting into him. Thankfully they weren't deep as he pulled himself out. Ow, 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 ow. Damn it, I'm really getting pissed off with this guy. Ha. He saw some tattered cloth on his face and pulled it. That bastard. He ruined my mask. Don't worry, kid, you'll not live to worry about it, Scar said, looking down at the boy. As the boy turned to face him, the scared man suddenly looked at him in shock. With the mask gone, he could see the strange marks on the boy's cheeks, and with the blue eyes and yellow hair, he knew who the boy was. It was the same boy from years earlier, the one that had given him all those scars and ruined his career. You. Of all the people, I never thought I'd get the chance to face you again, you little monster, Scar, Akira said to him, growing the words out with as much hatred as was possible. What, you saying that you know me or something? Naruto shouted out as he threw a few kunai, but the man just sidestepped them, glaring hatred at the boy. What's the matter, boy? Don't you recognize your own handiwork? You're the one that gave me these scars. Naruto looked at him, frozen for a moment. He was trying to remember where he could have done something like that, but he couldn't remember anyone he had something like that. His face looked like an animal attacked it anyway. Let me refresh your memory, demon. You remember the Hyuga girl? With that, Naruto's eyes widened at the sudden memory of the night he had found Hinata being kidnapped. He could barely remember that night, but a few things stuck out, and looking at the man, he thought he could see a bit of the man he met years ago, but it had been so long and he had been so young back then. I know I hurt that guy, but I did that to him. How could I do Was it the fox? You ruined my life that night. I know what you are, or at least that you're not human. I saw the monster that you are that night. I can't believe that the village let something like you live. All because of you I failed in my mission to get that girl. Why the hell did you try and take Hinata-chan anyway? Naruto said angrily, clenching his fist. Simple, my village wanted her bloodline ability. She was to be taken to Cloud and she would have been used to breed a new Hyuga line in our village, and if I couldn't get her then I was prepared to just take her eyes. I'm sure that she could have survived even if blinded for the rest of her life, but she most likely would have died from the pain and trauma anyway. Naruto's teeth clenched at that. He never did find out why she had been taken, but the thought of Hinata being taken and used like that filled him with rage, and the thought of someone taking her eyes like that made him even more angry. That's it, get angry boy, I want to see that power again, Scar told him, getting himself ready. He had waited years for this, and last time he had been surprised, but this time he knew what to expect, and besides, an angry opponent made mistakes as well, so he might as well see just how far he could push the boy before he slit his throat. He quickly moved forward faster than Naruto expected. The boy tried to fight off the man, but his fighting skills weren't up to the man's level. He tried to throw punches and kicks but only ended up with them being countered, and then he was hit hard in return. But no matter how many times Naruto was kicked down, he never gave up. He just got up and tried to go at it with more force. He created several shadow clones as he used them to try and overwhelm the man. Scar only smirked as he started to make hand seals, lightning storm. He shot out his hands as bolts of lightning shot out. They arced and raced all over the place, and his clones were hit and dispersed from the damage. The real Naruto got hit in the chest with one bolt. He felt his body stiffen as his nerves all flared up, and he yelled out in pain as he was sent into a tree. He groaned, trying to clear his head, knowing that the man would attack him again, but he had trouble feeling his body. Don't worry, it's not permanent, but you won't be able to move for a few seconds anyway, more than enough time. Pity, I expected more from a freak like you, but I guess the last time was a fluke. Akira grinned as he slowly pulled out a kunai. He wanted to enjoy this moment. He wanted the boy to suffer for everything that had happened to him since that night. And don't worry about your team, I recognized at least two of them. The boy with that symbol on his shirt must be the last Uchiha I heard about. I'll have to make quick work or you boy to make sure they don't kill him. With him I could make a deal to get back into Cloud. To have the mighty Sharingan in our possession would be something that my cage would overlook my past actions for, plus that was Kakashi Hatake out there, wasn't it? There's many that would pay for the bounty on his head. Leave them alone, Naruto growled out, trying to get up. As for the pink one, she's nothing special, but I know of some slavers that like them, young sir. I can at least make some money off of her that way, if she lives, that is. Naruto felt the blood rushing to his ears, pounding against them. Thinking about that, he could see his father dead on the ground, Sasuke put into some cage, and Sakura being tied up and dragged off. They were his father, his family, his team, and he wouldn't let this man destroy it. He felt the anger rise up, and with it something else. He wasn't sure what it was, a warm feeling like a fire inside of him, but he felt stronger with it. So he let it burn and grow within him. He could start to feel his body again, and he looked up enraged at the scarred man. Scar saw the boy's eyes turn into that familiar red, those red eyes that once haunted his nightmares. That's it, show me the true monster that you are. He lunged forth, trying to stab the boy, but he was a lot quicker than before and managed to move out of the way. He quickly turned to see the boy on all fours like some kind of wild animal. Let's finish this, boy. Only one of us is leaving here alive this time. Scar yelled out as both fighters started to move towards each other. The others had just finished up dealing with the enemy. The bandits that could still run did, leaving their comrades behind them, but Kakashi let them go. They weren't in any shape to chase him down, and besides, without the ninja leaders and the bulk of their forces, they weren't much of a threat anymore. He scanned the area and took stock of things. He saw Sakura looked a bit pale and a little shaky when he saw the blood on her. He knew she must have just killed. He looked to see Sasuke with some blood as well, but he seemed to be handling things better, but he wasn't sure if that was a good thing or not. He looked around but suddenly noticed that Naruto wasn't with them. Has anyone seen Naruto? Both genin looked at each other and then around, and Kakashi got worried. There was one ninja not accounted for. He was about to call them to start searching when they felt it, that same dark chakra that Kakashi had felt before years ago. He looked to see where it was coming from, and there was the sounds of battle going on. He was worried that maybe Naruto's seal had weakened or something, but whatever it was, Naruto was in danger. He quickly ordered his team to start off in that direction looking for Naruto. They ran into the forest looking for Naruto. Although Sakura and Sasuke were wondering where that powerful chakra from coming from, they could feel it and it felt evil to them. Then just as suddenly as it appeared, the evil chakra was gone. They broke off to search in different directions. Sakura was worried for her friend and teammate after feeling that strange chakra. Just remembering it gave her chills, and she was wondering what that missing nin had done to him and if that ninja had been the one to use that chakra. Naruto, where are you? Are you okay? She called out and began searching. She quickly found the site of a battle. The trees and bushes and even the earth was damaged. She quickly looked around and nearly missed a bit of blonde hair sticking out from behind a tree. Naruto. She yelled out, running over to him. She hoped that he was okay, but what she didn't expect was the sight she found. She froze in shock and horror at the scene. There was Naruto sitting by a tree looking at his hands. They were covered in blood as well. He had blood over his clothing too. His mask was ripped to shreds and she could see his face for the first time, but she could see the haunted look on his face. And Naruto, are you okay? She gently asked him, but he didn't even react, and then she saw the body of the ninja he had been fighting. She had already thrown up her stomach contents after her own first kill, but this was much worse. The man's stomach was opened up like he had been eviscerated. There was so much blood and all sorts of things from inside the man all over the place. She turned around and quickly fell to her knees, covering her mouth as she started to dry heave. Naruto, Sakura, are you over here? Sasuke asked as he jumped onto the scene, and he too froze at the sight of Naruto's kill. He looked at the genin, who looked shell-shocked, and he couldn't believe that Naruto had brutally killed a man like that. He never knew that Naruto could be like that, and from the looks of it, Naruto didn't know it either. When Kakashi got on the scene, he knew that he had to help all his genin pick up the pieces. The first kill was always the hardest, and by the looks of it, this day would live forever in them. He wished that they didn't have to experience such horror at a young age, but he himself had seen this kind of death not much older than them. He would have to deal with them carefully, and from the looks of it, his son needed him more than ever now. After the whole mess with the battle, Kakashi had them move to a river that they had passed by on their patrol to clean up. He had them wash their clothing and themselves, knowing that getting all the blood off would help. It was strangely silent through it all, and he was wondering where he would start first. As a father, he wanted to go to Naruto, plus he seemed the worst off. Sakura was still a bit shaky from her ordeal, although Sasuke's reaction was still troubling him. The boy was either hiding his emotions or he didn't feel much about killing, and for a first kill that worried him. Although the boy was used to seeing the dead, after all, finding your entire clan and family murdered did things to you. He just hoped that the boy wouldn't go down the path some took. Some found it easier to kill off your emotions to be able to take this kind of work. At times he would agree that it helped, but only to a degree. To totally kill off your emotions led you down a very dangerous path. By nightfall they were all cleaned up, but still the mood wasn't very good. It was too quiet in the camp. Sakura herself didn't feel like eating much. Although she felt hungry, she still couldn't stomach much food in her stomach, thinking back to what happened. She still felt shaky after that battle, but she was also worried about her team. Sasuke seemed more withdrawn than normal, but what really worried her was Naruto. In all the years she had known him, he had never been this quit in his life. She sat next to him by the fire, neither of them saying anything. She wanted to say something, just anything to get her mind off today. She looked at his face, and for the first time she saw his real face without the mask. It wasn't too bad. He wasn't overly handsome like Sasuke, but he could be considered cute. What really surprised her was the black marks on his cheeks. They matched the markings on his mask, which surprised her. She looked to Kakashi and wondered if this was a family trait and the reason why they wore masks. Personally, she found them kind of nice, and with that she thought she found at least something to talk about. You know, you look nice without the mask on, Naruto. You should wear it less now and then. Naruto just shrugged and she frowned. Naruto, are you okay? She asked him, and she didn't see him react at all. So she went to stare into the fire with him. She was silent for a long moment before the memories were overwhelming her again. I can still see it, you know. His blood on my hands. I know he was going to kill me, but I just don't know how to deal with this. I'm 13 and just killed a man, and what's worse, we're going to have to do it again and again for the rest of our lives. She pulled her knees to her chest, feeling the tears running down her face slowly. I don't like killing. I know it's our job, but still. I don't like it. I feel sick all the time, and I feel like a monster or something. That last part was able to reach Naruto. He looked at the girl, and for the first time it registered how much she was hurting over this. He had been lost in his own thoughts until the fact that she was thinking of herself as a monster got his attention. That wasn't something he thought of when he looked at one of his oldest friends, thinking she was the monster. He was the one that felt like that, after all seeing what he had done to that ninja and remembering all the names that some people in the village called him made him feel more like that. She didn't have a demon locked up inside of her trying to get out, she didn't lose control and ripped that guy apart. He looked at her shaking form and he inched a bit closer and put his arm around her, she jumped surprised by him. Sakura-chan, you're not a monster, you're one of my closest of friends. Trust me, you are nothing close to being one. That guy was going to kill you and you just did it. You feel sorry for him even though he wouldn't feel sorry for you. Trust me, you're a better person than he was, he said to her gently. She cracked a small smile and lowered her head a bit, thanks, but I still see it when I close my eyes. You always remember the first time you kill. Both teens jumped at the new voice and Naruto pulled away from Sakura and turned around quickly to face his father. Damn it, don't sneak up on people like that. He shouted at him. He was actually glad he did shout, being his usual loud self was a good sign, although as soon as it was over he went back to being depressed. Kakashi sighed and sat down with his team. There are no magic words or anything I can say to make you feel any better. It will get easier in the future, but the trick is a balance, to kill only when needed and to never enjoy the killing. If you enjoy killing, it leads to a very dark path for you. You will lose what it makes you human, and deep down that's what we all are. Another is to still feel something. If you cut off your emotions to deal with this kind of thing, you'll be empty inside. You'll just be existing and not really living anymore, and that's not a life you should live. He cast a glance to Sasuke, but the boy obviously wasn't listening to him. The man sighed, shaking his head at that. Maybe he would have a talk on the way back to the village. Both Sakura and Naruto felt a bit better at that, although they still weren't sure what to think and feel at the moment. Kakashi gave them one of his eye smiles. Well, I'm going to take a leak, be right back. That caused the two genin to face fall. Once again, just when Kakashi was saying something cool, he ruins it at the last moment. As both of his students picked themselves up, he slipped into the forest and quickly pulled out a small piece of note paper from his vest and started to write something. He folded it up and quickly summoned up his fastest dog. He bent down and gave the dog the note and told him who to give it to and to get there as quickly as possible. The summoned animal nodded his head and ran off into the night towards the village. With that done, he was about to get back to camp when he heard someone walking up behind him. Naruto came out of the darkness looking up at him. Dad, can we talk? Anytime, he said, finding a large stone to sit on and gestured for him to sit on a slightly smaller one next to him. Naruto sat there not saying anything at the moment, but Kakashi was patient and would let him say what was bothering him. It took him a moment until Naruto finally spoke up. Dad, I think the fox did something to me. Kakashi was worried about this and told him to lift his shirt and channel some chakra. He checked the seal and to him it looked okay. Although he wasn't a master of seals like his sensei had been or Jiraiya even, but with his own skills he thought it looked good. He told Naruto this, but it didn't seem to make him feel any less assured. Then why did I do that? I mean, I was so angry and then, I can't really remember what happened, he told him. He looked at his hands and although the blood was finally gone, he didn't feel very clean. He was wondering if he was really starting to become a monster like all those people said that he was. He was scared that the fox would win out and eventually get out, or take him over and make him do horrible things. Dad, I don't like this. I mean, yeah, I knew this would happen, but was that really me? He asked. Naruto, I know you, I raised you, but let me tell you this, you are a good kid. But I felt that chakra and it was the fox's. Now I don't know everything, but I think you were drawing on its chakra by accident. Tell me, what exactly were you feeling and how did it make you feel when you were using it? Naruto thought hard about it. Angry, I was really angry. I mean, the things the guys said just made me really mad, and then I just started to feel really angry. I can't remember being that angry before, and I also felt. Go on, you felt what? Powerful, like nothing else really matter. Like he was nothing and that I should destroy him. I wanted to hurt him and make him suffer. I felt this rush of power and it felt good. Naruto didn't like saying it, but it was honestly how he felt. He had never felt so powerful before, so free, and it scared him. He had no control and he had seen the results of what had happened as well. He was scared of losing himself to that kind of power again, and what if he hurt someone close to him? He couldn't live with the fact that he had hurt someone close to him. It was all because of that damn fox that his life was so hard. He could still vaguely remember that day he had been kidnapped and nearly killed. Then there were the kids that picked on him, the adults that gave him cold looks. There just seemed to be no end to the problems that this thing caused him. He was lost in his thoughts until he felt a strong hand on his shoulder and looked up to see his dad. Naruto, you are stronger than this thing. There is a reason why it was placed in you. Your biological father wanted you to be seen as a hero, the one that kept us all safe from the Kyuubi. It's because of you that the village still lives, and never doubt for a second that you're not that strong. I've always been proud of you, son, and as long as you never give up, you'll always win against the fox. And if you ever need any help, you know that I'll be here for you too. Naruto smiled up at him. Dad, thanks. Kakashi smiled back down at him and ruffled his hair. Hey, what's a father for? 2 days later, in the Team 8 training field, Kurenai was looking over her team as they did a group training exercise. They wore a different colored bandana on their arms, and every now and then she would call out the color. That person was the enemy that they would attack, but at any moment she randomly chose someone else to be the enemy for this. Currently Kiba is the enemy, as Hinata and Shino were attacking him. Of course Akamaru was with Kiba, so it helped to even the odds. There were also some restrictions, such as Shino couldn't drain everyone's chakra totally and Hinata couldn't close everyone's chakra down either, only parts of it. She was proud of how well they were improving. They were really coming along as a team. With some more training they could even be ready for the Chunin exams at this point. That was still months away, but when it would come to the village she wanted her team to be ready for it. What the Genins didn't know was that the Jonin senseis had a slight bet going on how many of them could get their teams ready for the next exams. Kurenai was brought out of her thoughts as she heard something running towards them. She looked to find a dog running at them at full speed, it seemed. Although as soon as the dog saw her it quickly changed course to go directly towards her. She was wondering if this was something from Kiba's clan. After all, it wasn't the first time one of the dogs came with a message for Kiba. The dog stopped, panting hard as it dropped something at her feet. She bent down to pick up a note that was addressed to her. As soon as the dog saw that she got it, he decided that he no longer needed to stick around and went back to the summoning world. Kurenai raised an eyebrow at that. She hadn't known that it was a summons, and as far as she knew only one man could summon dogs. She opened the letter and sure enough it was from Kakashi. She read on, and although she had known it wouldn't be good news, she didn't like what she was reading. It was lucky that her own team hadn't gone through the first kill. That was something she wasn't looking forward with dealing. The request was mainly if she could have Hinata go with Naruto. Apparently he thought that she could help him through this in a way he couldn't. He also asked if she could get in touch with Asuma and get Ino talking with Sakura as well. That was pretty much it, other than to pass on what happened to the Hokage and that they were on their return journey and would be back in a few days. She hoped that his team would be alright, and she could already see her students looking at her wondering what was going on. I didn't say to stop. Green is the enemy, go. She commanded and they jumped back into action. She would have to have a word with Hinata after training, but she was also wondering just how much she should tell her. She knew of the girl's feelings for him, anyone with eyes could see that. Well, most she was wondering why Naruto was so oblivious to it. At any rate, she would just tell her that Naruto had a rough mission and could use someone to talk to. She would have to track down Asuma, but that wasn't too hard. He usually hung out in certain areas. She had to smile a little at an excuse to see him. Although the only person that knew that she liked the man was Anko, she wasn't sure how to act. She had spent so many years on her career as a ninja that she hardly had the time for dates. Sure, there had been the odd one here and there, but nothing meaningful. Asuma, however, wasn't like most guys. He was caring and didn't look at her as some kind of sex object. Plus, she will admit he had been kind of a rebel and bad boy back in the day with how he left to join the 12 Guardians against his father's wishes. She had a crush back on him during that period, and when he left she felt a bit empty, but she moved on. Or at least she thought she had, until he came back and he was more mature now, but he still had that devil-may-care attitude, and to her he was sexy too. If only she could get him to give up smoking, but it seemed to be a family addiction. At any rate, she put the note away and went back to watching her student train. After they were done, she would give them the rest of the day off after pulling aside Hinata for a talk. A few days later, Team 7 had finally made it back home. It had been a rough few days for the team. Sakura and Naruto hadn't slept well for the first night. It got better each day, but still it was something Kakashi knew they would have to live with. Sasuke was still being distant and it was hard to see just what was going through the boy's mind. He internally sighed, hoping that Kurenai got his message, that way at least 2 members of his team would have some support. But Sasuke was another problem, the boy just didn't have any friends as he had pushed everyone away. Kakashi knew why, it was to prevent anyone forming bonds with him so when those bonds were cut they couldn't hurt him again. He had been like that after his father's death but still his old team reached out to him. He kept trying to reach the boy but it was hard, the boy was really stubborn even more so than he had been. He guessed it was that Uchiha pride of his that kept asking people for help for anything. He needed to think of a way to break the boy out of that line of thought. Naruto had managed to find one of his spare masks that he brought with him and put it back on after that first night. Sakura kept trying to tell him that he didn't need it but he was vocal about why it was tradition. It was good to see them getting back to normal at least. When they got to the main gates he could already feel the team's mood lighten as they knew they were finally home. Well, I'm going to make a full report on things, you all go home and take tomorrow off. You all did great work and just relax, we'll pick up things later at the training field at the usual time in 2 days. With that Kakashi vanished in a puff of smoke, Sasuke shrugged and walked back to his home leaving the other 2 behind. Naruto and Sakura said the goodbyes and went on their separate ways home. Naruto dropped his stuff at his house but he just didn't want to sit around, he still have a lot to think about so he decided to go to the place where he did all his deep thinking. For times like this he went to one of his favorite places, the top of the 4th's head on the mountain. At first he never knew why he felt drawn to the 4th but after Kakashi told him about his past it made for a lot of sense. His biological father had been a great man and had sacrificed himself to save the village. He had been a great hero and someone that he wanted to not only become but be even greater than. Although at the moment he didn't feel much like a hero, when you read about those great battles they never mentioned just how nasty things got. There was so much they never told you about how real combat is like, it's nothing like in the books which made it seem so clean. But it wasn't clean, it's the opposite and he was left wondering if the 4th felt like he was at this moment. While he was sitting there thinking he hadn't noticed a small girl his own age had just managed to get up to the mountain top. Hinata had been looking for Naruto all over the village, she had missed him at the gate so she went on a search of all his usual places. After Kurenai told her that something happened and that she should go talk with Naruto she had been waiting for the day for him to get back. So she had started looking for him at the places and people that would know where he might be. First she checked with Konohamaru but he hadn't seen him at all, so she checked the ramen stand and he wasn't there either. This was starting to worry her, if something was bothering him he tried to eat them away, if they were really bad he went to train to blow off steam. So she checked the training area that he used but still no sign. Now she was really getting worried. Only when things got really bad for him did he go to the one place where most people didn't know about. She knew about it from him taking her there once as kids telling her it was a secret spot that he liked to go to. So she looked up at the Hokage monument and with her eyes she was able to see a small form sitting on top of it. She went quickly as she could up the mountain path and she was finally able to see him now. But she stopped when she looked at him, he looked so defeated. His eyes looked unfocused and lost and in so much pain. She couldn't remember ever seeing Naruto like this, it just seemed wrong for him to be like this, like it was totally against nature for him to be this way. Just looking at him like this filled her heart with pain at how much he looked to be silently suffering. She felt tears in her eyes at just the sight of him and so without thinking she just acted. Naruto was silently staring out across the village until he felt a pair of slim arms hug him from behind. He felt the weight of Hinata against his back and she seemed to be shaking. It wasn't until he felt the water on his cheek that he realized that she was crying. He didn't like to see her cry, she was the best person he knew and seeing her cry was just heartbreaking. Hinata-chan. And Naruto-kun, why won't you let me help? You always are there for me, you were there for me when my mother died, when I was in pain. Please Naruto-kun, let me help you for once. She begged him, hugging him hard. He had been her source of inspiration and happiness for as long as she could remember. He was always a source of happiness for not only her but others around her, he was like sunshine and she loved how his blue eyes held what seemed like an eternal warmth, happiness with a hint of mischief in them. But now his eyes held nothing but sorrow and pain and she didn't like to see that kind of look in them. She hated seeing him in pain and she wanted to comfort him for once and take away his pain and suffering like he did with her. Naruto felt the warmth of her body and strangely it felt nice. He closed his eyes just embracing the feeling that was washing over him. He just felt better in her arms for some reason. He felt warmer and he didn't want it to end. He hadn't felt this way since he was a kid and he had been scared and then his dad would always be there to make him feel safe again. Naruto didn't know what to say but he also didn't like to see her cry. He twisted around and hugged her back, giving back what he was getting. Hinata seemed to hug him even closer as she felt his arms around her. It seemed natural the way they were holding each other like this. Normally such contact would send her blushing bright red and most likely faint, but she couldn't do that now. Naruto needed her and she would be there for him. Tell me what happened, she asked him. Naruto told her everything that he could. He skipped the part about the Kyuubi for now. He didn't want to burden her with that information. So he went into the battle and how he had been forced to kill that man. He also told her that it had been the same one that tried to kidnap her years ago. She was shocked to learn this. She still thought about that night now and then, but now that man was dead. It just seemed that man did nothing but hurt her and Naruto. After he was done she spoke to him. Naruto-kun, you did nothing wrong. Why, you're a good person. Why, you've always been one of the kindness people I've known. The fact that you feel bad proves that why you're a good person because he wouldn't have. I know you, and I know that deep down, you are good no matter what anyone says you are. Naruto smiled as his head was resting on her shoulder listening to her. He felt bad as he still kept secrets from her like his real parents and the demon locked up inside of him. He hated himself that she trusted him so much and yet he was afraid to tell her the truth. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think, Hinata, but you are one of my most precious people. You really do believe in me it seems, so I don't want to let you down. Hinata-chan, thank you. He whispered into her ear. She smiled, blushing a bit now, feeling his breath touch her ear like that. She was glad that she could help him out. Unfortunately, that was also the point when she realized that she was in fact holding Naruto right up against her. He was pressing his body against hers and she could feel the hot breath coming off him against her neck. She had just acted without really thinking, but now that her brain had finally caught up to what was going on. Eep. Naruto heard the sound and blinked a few times as Hinata suddenly went slack. He gently pulled her away and noticed how loose she was. He saw her face was still bright red but with a happy, dazed expression on it. Hinata. Hinata, wake up. Oh man, why does this keep happening? Naruto yelled out, frantically trying to wake the poor girl up. Meanwhile, in another part of the village, Sakura was just sitting by the bridge that her team passed to get to their training field. She liked the place, it was beautiful and peaceful place. There was leaning against one of the railings of the red little bridge, just watching the gentle water or the small river move under her. She just listened to the gentle sounds as the warmth of the sun hit her body. She needed something to calm her after that mission. She just closed her eyes and took in everything that she could. She could feel the gentle wind move across her skin and face, the heat of the sun's rays. She could smell the scene of flowers on the river bank and the sounds of animals in the trees not too far away. She let her mind just clear and to find some kind of inner peace with herself. Hey Sakura, yelled a familiar voice. Sakura was so shocked she nearly fell over. So much for inner peace with her around. Damn it, things were going so good too. Ino Pig better have a good excuse or else, Shanaro. And angry inner Sakura said in her mind, rising a fist in Ino's direction. Sakura turned to her best friend. Hey Ino, what's up? Ino walked over to the pink-haired girl. She had been told something had happened during the mission she had been on. She wasn't sure what since Asuma just told her that she should at least go and see if she was okay. Looking at her now, she could see that Sakura looked a little worse for wear. Her hair was a little unkempt and there was signs of dark circles starting to show up under her eyes. She looked tired and Ino had to wonder what had happened. Hey there, forehead, can't a girl hang with her friend? Ino said, smiling brightly at her. Sakura sighed and turned to face the river. Sorry, but I'm not up to it. I just want to be alone. Ino didn't listen though, as she just leaned against the railing next to her. Sakura didn't say anything, so Ino just started going on about her day, work at the flower shop, training with her team, the D-rank missions she had been on and hated. How she had to keep motivating Shikamaru to get off his lazy ass and do some work now and then. Sakura tried to ignore her, but Ino just kept on going, making a vain start to show up on the pink-haired girl's head. Ino. Yes, she said innocently. What will it take for you to go away? Ino smirked, knowing full well that she would break sooner or later. Easy. Tell what happened. Sakura bit her lip, not wanting to say anything, but Ino started up again, so she had to stop her and then tell her everything. It was hard to go through what happened, how she felt when she had killed that bandit. She looked down at her hands by the end of it and noticed that her hands were shaking. She looked at them, at the hands that blood on them only a few days ago. She could still remember how it felt, and she felt slightly sick to her stomach at that moment. But just when she thought she was going to lose it, she watched a pair of slender hands take hers and the shaking slowly started to stop. She slowly looked up the arms to the face of Ino and she would see the worry in them. Ino had never seen Sakura this shaken up before. Hey, it's okay. I'm not so sure it is, Sakura said quietly, looking down. I don't know if I'm strong enough. Hey, that's not the Sakura I know, Ino told her. I remember when you used to be the shy girl that had trouble even speaking. You haven't been like that in years, you're stronger person than you used to be, and I know for a fact that you won't let yourself become weak. You're one of the strongest people I know and you're going to beat this. We came too far to be stopped and we're just starting out our lives as ninjas. I know this isn't easy, but you don't have to do this alone, you got me and all your friends to lean on. So if you ever need to talk, you can at least come to me. Now how about we just go out and enjoy the fact you're back and safe? Are you doing anything tomorrow? No, we got the day off, the pink-haired girl said. Good, there's this cute little dress I think you'd like for sale, and then we can go get something to eat and just hang out. We can make it a girls' day out, what do you say? Sakura had to manage a small smile. Ino, thanks. Ino smiled, no problem, just promise me something. Okay, what? Ino's face got a bit more serious. When this happens, so be there for me too, will you? Sakura nodded her head. Of course, it's what best friends are for, right? That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.